Welcome to Algebra 1, Semester 1, Unit 2, Section 3.8. You'll be watching this video two different nights because there are some difficult problems in it that I want you to make sure that you understand. I want you to review it. When you see this kind of a problem with a semicolon and then a letter, it's meaning solve for y. In other words, treat y as the only variable in there, treating it like the creepy dude. So we circle our y, spotlight him, and say we want him all alone. I'll scribble that out so it's not confusing. Looking at the y, you ask yourself what's being added or subtracted to the y. Remember, 4 is not being added to the y. It's sitting right next to it. It's being multiplied. So what's being added is 5x. To get rid of a positive 5x, we would subtract 5x from each side. So that's the subtraction property of equality. Now the next thing that we do here is we need to write what we have. We know that 5x minus 5x wipes out, so we just have 4y over here, but here's where the most common error comes. Students sometimes will forget these are not like terms. They are not like terms, so you may not combine them any closer than this. It is just negative 5x plus 20. Please write the x term first so that if you're later going to be graphing, you've got it in slope-intercept form. We'll get into that later. Now we continue to follow up our PIMDAs to get y alone. It's being multiplied by 4, so we're going to divide by 4. So that's division property of equality. We get y equals, now we need to distribute this 4 to each one of those. That is the distributive property. And the reason we need to do that is because one of these we can see reduces. So we get negative 5/4 x plus 4 does go into 20 5 times. So that's our final answer. Next problem, it asks us to get w alone. So we circle w in here. W is being multiplied by L and H, so we divide by L and H. We get V over LH equals W. That was simply division property of equality. One more here. We have a formula. A equals 1/2 base times height. We want the base to be left alone. So we circle it in the equation. Maybe I'll scribble that out so that you don't get confused by it. We can see that base is being multiplied by h, divided by 2, or multiplied by 1/2, either way you want to look at it. So we can divide by h, divide by h, that's the division property of equality. And now we get a over h equals 1/2 times b. Now, in order to divide by 1/2, it's the same thing as skipping that half and flipping it to make it 2 over 1. Multiplying by 2 over 1 is the same thing as dividing by 1/2. You're saying how many halves are in an item, or you're multiplying by 2. So we multiplied this by 2 over 1. This cancels, that cancels, and we get that b equals 2 times a over h. 2 times a over h. That last step was the multiplication property. Of equality. Okay. So now we're down to word problems. I wanted to work these on the video so that you can go back and look them over. I do ask that you show all your calculations, however you solve it. There are a couple different ways to solve it. I'll probably just stick to one way, and then you can ask me if another way is a valid way in class. I do expect you to highlight important information. So in parking lot of ICDA, at least 60 cars can park. Okay, that means that we couldn't park 61 cars though. Okay, I guess that's a misprint. We should say at most. Okay, at most we can park 60 cars. So in other words, we have 60 spaces out there. We could fill them all, so it could be equal, but we can't go over 60. So far there are 12 cars in the parking lot. Okay, so we have 12 in there right now. The cars enter the lot at a constant rate and none leave. In 6 hours, the lot has 60 cars parked in it. How many have entered per hour? Well, we know that we've had a certain number enter every hour for 6 hours. So let's just play with this a little bit. Let's say that we take 6 times the number of cars that enter, and then we're going to add the 12 that were there, and it should stay under or equal to 60. In fact, we could set it equal to 60 because we say that it ends up being 60 cars in the parking lot. I'm willing to make errors with you on this, so I'm not sure if it's going to turn out. We're playing with it to see if it makes sense. Math should always make sense. So if we solve for the C, number of cars coming in per hour, we should say that. C is number cars entering per hour. Okay, so we subtract 12 from each side. That'll wipe out. We get 48 equals 6C. If we divide by 6, we get that C equals 8. Now let's see if that sounds about right. Let's just draw a little graph here. Let's say that these represent the hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. We started with 12 cars. We ended with 60. And we're saying that 8 come in every hour. So 12 plus 8 would be 20. Plus 8 would be 28. Plus 8 would be 36. Plus 8 would be 44. Plus 8 would be 52. Plus 8 would equal to 60. So I'm convinced that's right. Make sure that your word problems make sense. Now the last thing I ask you is to take whatever you've done, leave it there, don't erase, and then write in a complete sentence how many have entered per hour. 8 cars have entered per hour. Okay, next problem. Shortest human is 21.5 inches tall. That's important information. That's the shortest human. The tallest is 99 inches. That's the tallest. Write and graph a compound inequality that describes the possible heights h of a person. Well, if this is the shortest, then there is a human equal to that. If this is the tallest, there is a human equal to that. And this is the height of the humans. Yeah, it says to graph. So I simply put a filled in dot there, a filled in dot there. It's a compound connection. Now I just write the numbers underneath. And that's it. That means humans, for the most part, unless we have somebody on the extreme that reestablishes a height, then humans will be between 21 3/4 inches and 99 inches. Okay. Hannah is planning to buy a cell phone. One plan costs $35 per month and 5 cents per text. The other plan costs $25 per month and 7 cents per text. My question I forgot to ask you is, at what point are these two plans equal? Okay, so 35 plus 0.05 times your number of texts equals 25 plus 0.07 texts. We go ahead and we get our variables gathered to the left-hand side, so we subtract 0.07 from each side. That's the subtraction property of equality. That will leave us with a negative 0.02, 35, and 25. Now we need to get that t by itself, so we subtract 35 from each side, because it is a positive 35 up there. That'll wipe out. We get a negative 0.02 t equals negative 10. Now in order to get that t by itself, we divide by 0.02, negative, divide by negative 0.02. This will wipe out, and we find negative divided by a negative is a positive. 0.02 goes into 10. We move the decimal over the two places. That means we have to move this decimal over two places. 2 will go into 10 5 times. So we find at 500 texts, those are equal. So if you are a texter and you usually do over 500 texts per month, I'm sorry, I kind of ran off the screen there. If you do over 500 texts per month, then it would be to your advantage to make sure and go with the more expensive plan because it's charging you less for the texts. But if you do under 500 texts per month, then go with this plan because you're going to save money where your base is only $25. And in order for you to be as costly as the other plan, you have to do over 500 texts. It's kind of useful to use that kind of information to help yourself be a smarter shopper. On the road trip from Reno to St. Louis, Mrs. Kane drove 1,800 miles in 4 days. Find her average miles per day. So this is a rate, 1,800 miles, 4 days. And I'm asking you to switch it to a unit rate, which will be miles over 1 day. You could do it this way, but you wouldn't get full credit. I would only take 1 point off, but I ask you to use the formula D equals RT. So distance being 1,800 equals the rate and the time. Well, we know that it's 4 days, that would be our time. Our rate, we're not sure of, that's what we're solving for. So we draw the line, we circle our creepy dude, we divide by 4 on each side, and we find that our rate is, 4 will go into 18 4 times, 16, bring down 20, goes in there 5 times. Don't forget to bring up a 0 as a placeholder there. So Mrs. Kane travels 450 miles per day. That is the conclusion of Unit 2. Study for the test and get ready to do great on it. Thank you very much.